So for those who don't know, the other day, Elon Musk and Donald Trump got in a little bit of a conversation on Twitter. Now, it's interesting that these two got into conversation the way they did because they've had such a weird lovers spat recently. We'll get into it after fan art. Here, just very, very quickly, this one is from 42Fish. They said, no context, but apparently Hol-chan is quite gay. And the next one is from Barry Black Cat Magical Girl Suris. I tried to make the gem look like a fig, but it's just a circle. Help. The Hangul says Magical Girl Suris. I don't know why I put it in Korean, because this isn't the universe. I have them say their magical girl names in another language. But I hope you enjoy the art. Also, this is the first thing I've made since an art block. God, I adore it when artists break out of their art blocks and make fan art for me. It's a weird trend where, like, a lot of artists end up doing that on my channel. And I'm super happy for them because art block, from what I understand, really, really sucks. But I'm glad that y'all were able to get out of it. And I'm glad that I was able to help a little bit just by kind of existing here on the internet in some way, shape, or form. That said, if you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that all said, let's go ahead and get into the article at hand. Well, not really the article, more the conversation that we've got to go over. So, let's give a quick chronology. Donald Trump was president. During that time, Elon Musk came and tried to talk to him at the White House. They took pictures together. They had a grand old time. And then, Elon Musk bought Twitter. And there was all kinds of weird shit happening between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. They had a whole lovers spat around this time. So much so that after getting kicked off of Twitter, Donald Trump decided that he was going to make his own Twitter with blackjack and hookers. Thus, Truth Social was born, which literally only exists as long as Trump exists. The nanosecond he dies, and in his old age, that's going to happen sooner rather than later, Truth Social will basically go with him, because the only reason to be on there is to fantasize about licking Trump's toes. So, Trump and Elon are not with each other, and Trump goes on tirades every now and again about how Elon was begging for government subsidies and all this shit, and how it looks really bad for Elon, right? It's very, very sad. So, lo and behold, Trump is trying to bid to get elected. And of course, Elon Musk decides that he is going to fund a super PAC that will get Trump reelected, or will try to get Trump reelected, saying that he will donate anywhere between $25 and $45 million a month to the super PAC to try to get Trump elected, because of course you are not allowed to give more than $3,300 to an actual candidate, but you can use a PAC to generally fund a campaign. We have limitations on what you're allowed to do for campaign finance for the people who are willing to play by the rules. Everybody else gets to break them. It's really kind of sad. Anywho, where this all gets interesting is Trump changes his tune around that point. He goes and does a speech talking about how Elon Musk is a great man, and because he's donating so much to the Trump campaign, Trump has to do good by him. Which, on the one hand, I kind of understand, right? Because where I'm sitting, I live and breathe only by the good graces of my audience. People who donate on Patreon, people who donate to Twitch, people who spend money in the merch store every so often, people who send media share stuff, people who pick up stuff that I need to fix my computer off of Throne. All of you, in some way, shape, or form, even your view, allows me to do this full time. So, on the one hand, I kind of understand the mentality of, this person gave me a bunch of money, so I need to do right by them. On the other hand, it's very interesting when that person was an enemy that you were clowning on a whole bunch up until they were willing to grease your pocket. There's a line between, I feel accountable to these people who have dug me out of a hole, and campaign finance be fucked, yo. Jack and Quill, thank you for resubscribing. Speaking of campaign finance. Money talks, bullshit walks. Yep. So this all culminates with Trump finally, like a prodigal son, returning to Twitter after God knows how long, several years. He returns to Twitter and gets on a call with Elon Musk, a call that I listened to a portion of before this stream. And by before the stream, I mean while it was live. Now, apparently there were a shit ton of technical issues during this, some of which showed themselves while I was on. Do you want to know how terrifying it is to get into a Twitter live space and only see Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and you? There's a little tab under that says 1.2 million other viewers, but in terms of the amount of people that you could visibly see, usually when you go into a space, you see plenty. And what I saw was just me and those two. I recognize now that's just kind of a technical hiccup of how Twitter spaces are trying to operate, but God, that was weird. That felt very, very strange. Just as I listened to all of it, it was awful. The part that I listened to was Donald Trump and Elon Musk talking about climate change versus global warming. And Agamotto says, even if I donated $100 to, I don't think you would give me an unlimited war words for any length of time. Agamotto, you do not know the lengths I would go to be out of credit card debt. So I'm just going to leave that at that. Anyway, it's interesting that the one time I tuned into was Elon Musk saying something about global warming and Trump responding. And God, I have to say this. While he was speaking in that, he sounded like he was slurring constantly. Not like saying the N-word over and over again and trying to make his way down the Wikipedia ethnic slurs tier list. No, what he was doing was he was sounding like this. He sounded like his dentures weren't in. He sounded like he was high. Like every bit of media training that tells him that he's supposed to project like this, all went out the window so he could sound like this. I'm going to say this right now. If you are a media-trained person, if you are in front of a camera, it behooves you to do your damnedest not to sound like that, because people, A, have a hard time listening to it, and B, for better or worse, as ableist as it may be, people don't take you very seriously when you slur your words together. It's why I make an active effort to not try to slur my words together when I'm speaking, despite the fact that I do every now and again, especially with how fast I can speak sometimes. Trump, with all of his media training, I assume, and somebody who typically doesn't sound like that, during this call only sounded like that. He sounded like somebody not to take seriously the entire time, from top to bottom, for all the time I was listening to it. Jassa says loose dentures equals plus Sleepy Dawn. Yep. But with that said, I don't want to listen to the whole 2 hours of those two talking. I don't feel like that's a productive use of my time, and that's not a productive use of your time. So instead, we're going to look at the way that this has been reported on to see kind of what we can garner from it. So this one is from MSNBC.
And joining us now, political commentator Chris Cillizza and Variety co-editor-in-chief.
So for those who don't know, Chris here used to be a person who worked for CNN, and he has his own YouTube channel where he goes over basically the daily news, just the stuff that is important to talk about recently, and then it's usually like 5 or 6 minutes of time. That's about it. Honestly, pretty interesting channel. I would recommend.
Chief Ramin Satuda, he's the author of Apprentice in Wonderland, How Donald Trump and Mark Burnett Took America Through the Looking Glass. I know you both stayed up late watching and listening to that conversation last night. Let's talk about where we landed this morning after all of that. Trump has said this would be the interview of the century. Chris, in reality, a peak of about 1.3 million tuned in concurrently. And now that it's over, what did Trump accomplish with it?
So I think Garrett's right that sort of the audience was not Chris Cillizza, for example. But what I would say is it was just kind of boring. I mean, I listened to, I'm not going to lie, Anna, I'd love to tell you I listened to every single second. I probably listened to about 75 or 80% of it. And if you have ever seen or listened to...
Even somebody whose job it is to recount this stuff now gets too bored by it. This is how I feel with Project 2025. it gets too boring going over it. Like you're listening for euphemisms, you're listening for stuff that you know is important, and it just feels not.
Or read the transcript of a Trump campaign speech, all of what he said last night will be very familiar to you. It was kind of a conversation or interview in name only. Musk would ask something, and then Trump would just kind of go into his usual campaign riff, whether it was about immigration or, weirdly, Joe Biden, or, he just kind of has, it's like going to see the Eagles on tour at this point, right? They're going to play Hotel California. That's sort of what this was, really a sort of a greatest hits of Donald Trump. I don't know that it convinces anyone who was not already convinced. Maybe because it's a different medium, he reaches some people who have not heard this message, but it's kind of hard for me to imagine people have not heard at least most of what he said so far.
Well, look, Musk said up front that this would not be an adversarial interview, that he wanted open-minded independent voters to, quote, catch a vibe, to just get a feel for what conversation with Trump is like.
So he wanted to softball interview him. He pulled a Dave Rubin. These two people who have been adversarial when they're able to exchange words via tweet are now speaking as if they are best buddies because, of course, there's millions of dollars of money involved.
So, Ramin, you've had multiple conversations with Donald Trump. Your takeaway, and if this is what they were going for, what do you think is the takeaway for viewers or for listeners?
I think calling it an interview is generous. For most of us as journalists watching it, it was a train wreck. Elon Musk didn't ask very many questions. Donald Trump wasn't fact-checked in real time. But the argument of my book, which is based on 6 interviews I conducted with Donald Trump, is that Donald Trump sees the world through the paradigm of reality TV and all the seasons of The Apprentice that he starred in. And he runs his campaigns like a reality show. And for him to be able to have this 2-hour conversation where he could say whatever he wants made him feel good. He doesn't talk to journalists because he is fact-checked. And so he gets to dominate the news cycle. People play clips. He talks about how his red button was bigger than any other red button, and he's able to get back in the news. And that's how Donald Trump campaigns. So I think even though for us as journalists it seemed like a dud, for Donald Trump, this is the way in which he brands himself. And I think it succeeded on that level.
That's interesting. I do want to highlight at least one odd moment in this 2+ hour conversation when Trump discussed Vice President Harris's physical appearance and her cover of Time magazine. Watch this.
She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride.
Okay, so here's the part that I wanted you to listen to. Listen to how he sounds. Listen to how off his speech is.
Picture of her on Time magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing, and actually, she looked very much like our great First Lady, Melania. She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that.
Mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name there. Ramin,
It's so weird that he focuses so hard. Like, this is his... It's fine to call somebody attractive, right? It's fine to recognize that somebody is physically attractive. We should be okay with that. But it is very strange to focus so hard on the looks and the sexualization of the current vice president who you are going against. That's what your focus is on. You're not focused... Let's talk about the campaign stuff that she's going to do. It's all horrible. It's, man, look at her. She looks like a supermodel. Not quite like my wife, but I always still put my dick in it. Like that, it just sounds awful.
you have said that this is an example of why Trump needs an editor.
It is. When he was on The Apprentice, Mark Burnett could cut things that he said that didn't make sense. But what was also interesting, I went to Mar-a-Lago, and in the hallway of Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump has framed all the issues of Time magazine that he thought were flattering enough to frame. He said a lot of them he couldn't frame. But he wants to be on the cover of magazines. He's drawn to the media. So I saw this as Donald Trump being jealous that Kamala Harris was on the cover of Time magazine and Donald Trump wasn't this week. That to him is the ultimate currency. He looks at the world through the paradigm of fame.
So, Chris, we have some new reporting that Trump allies are trying to get him to refocus his message. But when he, I guess you could say, was on message last night, at times talking about the issues they want him to focus on, crime or immigration, he's trading in falsehoods. So what would a focused Trump look like?
God, it's so weird we have to try to figure out what a focused Trump would even look like. Because, like, From my perspective, we've never had a focused Trump. We've had a Trump that meanders. We've had a Trump that we can parse out what he's trying to say eventually, and when we get to it, it's usually fairly frightening, but dear God, it's insane.
Well, Anna, I would say good luck. I mean, I feel like the Trump allies want him to get on message is the story of literally the last 9.5 years, right? I mean, Trump...
See, it's not just me.
Is Trump. I mean, he's going to sort of do the kinds of things he did in that interview last night. There's just no way around it. It's both his great appeal and his great weakness. Look, I think it took him a very long time in that interview to get to what I think is probably his best message, which is Kamala Harris is too liberal. She's from San Francisco. Her voting record is too liberal in the Senate. Her time as a 2020 presidential candidate, she took a bunch of liberal positions that she's walked away from. That's not a bad message for him, and it could reach those low information swing voters. The problem is it came, 97 minutes into a 120-minute conversation because he spent the first 45 minutes, Elon and him patting each other on the back, and then him recounting in very long form the attempted assassination. So that's the issue. The message is in there. You just got to dig. And I don't know that the average swing voter is spending 90, 100 minutes listening to that on a late Monday night on the East Coast.
And the Harris campaign was responding in real time. They put out a fundraising email during that interview, and the subject line was, quote, "The two worst people you know are live right now." And
Jesus Christ, that is direct messaging if I have ever seen it.
The Harris camp messaging has been notable, Chris. Ezra Klein points out in the New York Times that gone is the grave, stentorian tone of Biden's news releases. Harris's communications are playful, mocking, confident, even mean. Trump is old and feeble.
Good. Democrats, okay, look, I'm not a fucking Democrat, right? You all know this. The Democrats are not left enough for me. I want union workers to have infinitely more power than what they have under the Democrats. I straight up don't fucking like capitalism, and Democrats are very pro that. But if there's one thing I will say that the Democratic Party has gotten down right now, more so than at any other time before, it is they've learned how to be mean. They've learned how to appeal to the disinterested, non-energized voter who responds best to spite. That is something that the Republican Party has been good at appealing to for a long time. Whether it's been them and their own media outrage, or the stuff that they've managed to get from people like Richard Spencer coining the alt-right, and then going, well, the Republicans are the best thing that we possibly could have for this, so we're going to go for them. They have been dealing in these spite politics for so goddamn long. It's amazing to me to watch the Democrats finally figure out that that shit works. Going high when they go low doesn't work. They go low, you get into the mud, and you show them that you're better. They go, hey, and she looks stupid, and she's sexual, and you just go, all right, this fucking fat ass over here, look at him, punch out all the time, having to wear shoulder pads on a suit just to make it seem like he's actually got any kind of weight on his shoulders. This guy who's a silver spoon trust fund baby made all of his money off of a fucking emerald mine, and the other one got a small loan of $1 million. Both of these two absolutely rat bastard dumbass people have nothing of worth to say, and they never have. And while that may not be the exact words that have been said by this administration, that's certainly the idea that you've gotten here. Tim Walz literally taking the J.D. Vance couch meme and running with it, as opposed to going, that's beneath us and we shouldn't be doing that, which, God, people who I used to hold so much respect for, I've been seeing doing that shit on Twitter too, where they're all just like, we really shouldn't be selling ourselves on this particular point. No, the fuck we shouldn't. We should actually own it. These people are fucking weirdos, and it is entirely okay to make fun of them for being fucking weirdos. It is all sales at the end of the day, and if these weird shit-ass people are willing to be weird shit-ass people and remove human rights, then fuck it. Jassa says, remember, Walz was the one who started the Republicans Are Weird movement. Good! Absolutely good. The minute to stop engaging in this kind of politics is the minute it stops working. That's when you stop. You keep going with it as long as it has momentum, as long as it is yielding dividends. There are people's fucking human rights on the line, and it is okay. It is A-okay to engage in this kind of rhetoric when you are trying to get those people's human rights secured. That is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. Anyway, back to here.
JD Vance is creepy. Her campaign wants to be talked about and knows how to get people talking. It's trying to do something Democrats have treated as beneath them for years.
Thank fuck.
Win news cycles. Chris, as we understand it, the Harris team has many of the same people who worked on Biden's campaign. What do you make of this rhetorical shift?
Well, I mean, look, the campaigns are reflective, generally speaking, of the candidate, right? And Joe Biden was not a guy, he's never really been a guy, go look at his Senate career, he's never really been a guy who liked the kind of like memification of politics, who liked the kind of social media back and forth. And so I think they throttled a lot of that stuff back. Kamala Harris is a different person, right? She's 20 plus years younger. She's a woman of color. She is someone who has kind of grown up more in the world of, I don't want to call it the Donald Trumpification of politics, but certainly the need to win each news cycle and win it like a knife fight, right? Like every day you have to fight to try to win news cycles. So I just think it's a reflection of the candidate, Anna, more than it is the campaign. I think they had the capacity to do this before. I honestly think Joe Biden in his inner circle didn't want to do it because they were
He should have leaned into Dark Brandon way more, let's be honest.
running this idea that he was the serious, more somber one, and Donald Trump was the more threatening one, the danger to democracy. I think that's a very different dynamic than how Kamala Harris wants to run.
I mean, Trump is not necessarily used to this style of pushback from an opponent. Is this him getting a taste of his own medicine? And how do you think he'll respond if he continues to see this kind of an attack against him?
It is him getting a taste of his own medicine, and no one has successfully been able to do it. Whenever anyone tried to do a nickname for Trump, it kind of fell flat. I think it's interesting that 8 years ago, Michelle Obama said when the Republicans go low, the Democrats go high. And based on polling and Biden not doing well in this election cycle, I think the lesson is the Democrats have to go low. And that's what the Kamala Harris team is doing. And I think this is effective messaging. The question is, can this continue to work for the next 2 months as we wait for the election?
But you say it is effective. How do you think it is?
Again, the time to stop doing this is the time it stops being effective.
Is effective against Trump?
I think it's effective because Donald Trump is a reality star. And so you are fighting him as if he were a reality star. You're talking about him in lowbrow terms that a lot of Americans can understand and see when they see Donald Trump on the campaign trail.
No, and I agree with that, but they're not the only news source that we're going to be looking at. I want to look at a couple more as well, just to see what else we've got on the docket here. Where is it? I guess I had one more. No, here's one from Guardian.
Possible. Both sides hate him. You know, both sides. Yeah. That was a hard thing to do. Unification.
Yeah, no. I mean, we unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers.
You know, it hit very hard, but hit the ear.
Of course, Tim Pool's right there.
And I also heard people...
The sort of slide that got you to turn that saved your life, really, was the illegal immigration slide. Maybe this... That's right. Maybe this...
Marjorie Taylor Greene's right there. I recognize her fucking profile picture right under Tim Pool. Here. We'll just minimize it a bit so you can see. There's the top of her dumb fucking forehead.
It's worth talking about that.
It was
that slide says
you're right.
Your life,
no, the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people. Yeah. These are criminals.
Wait. Trump wants to make it to where if somebody comes back to America after being deported, they just get the death penalty? You want to kill somebody for just fucking walking here? What is wrong with you?
That make our criminals look like nice people. And it's horrible what they're doing.
Trump had a conversation with Vladimir Putin, alluding that the Russian president wouldn't have invaded Ukraine if Trump was in office.
And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And, you know, it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again.
He said, no way. And I said, way. My guy, you don't have a way with words when you don't have a teleprompter. The former president also dismissed the threat.
The biggest threat is not global.
No, this is the part that I actually listened to.
Global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming.
Scientists say there could be catastrophic consequences in the next few decades without racial climate action. Yep. The biggest problem is nuclear warming. I'm going to be honest, I don't even know what that means. I'm not an expert here. I don't know what that means at all. So we are just going to very quickly... We're going to see what nuclear warming is. Let's see here. Experts on the dumbest climate conversation of all time. Let's see here. Nuclear. Trump talked about nuclear warming, while Musk said the only reason to quit fossil fuels is their supply is finite. Trump pondered during the exchange. Musk, meanwhile, said it was wrong to vilify the oil and gas industry, the key driver of planet heating pollution, saying that the only imperative to ditch fossil fuels is that they will one day run dry. Said if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving and the economy would collapse. We do, over time, want to move to sustainable energy because eventually you do run out of oil and gas. We do have quite a bit of time. We don't need to rush, and we don't need people to, like, you stop farmers from farming or, prevent people from having steaks. Like, leave the farmers alone. Nobody's saying that the farmers don't get to fucking farm, okay? Moving away from the gas industry means converting to more nuclear so that more electric vehicles that can do all of the same work, for the most part, that gas vehicles can do, can still do their shit, but on green energy instead of, oil. Like, you still have an oil industry, but making sure that it is not the only thing that people can rely on, so that you can supplement the oil industry in the areas that it is desperately needed with things like ethanol, instead of, sitting here just draining it dry constantly. And, of course, dealing with the ways in which the climate is negatively affected by that industry, not just with automobiles. That's its own thing that doesn't account for a whole lot, but the production industry in general produces a fuck ton of greenhouse gases, specifically because of the oil and gas industry. Said Suris slouching is bad. You're right, it is. But I wasn't slouching. Not really.
Spending sensible, and so the country lives within its means, just like a person.
The
does.
waste is incredible, and nobody negotiates prices.
I think it would be great.
Nobody negotiates prices. Jesus Christ, it's so weird to hear him like this.
To just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way.
Thank you for the hydrate stuff.
And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love it
if it were formed.
I don't want Musk helping out in any type of way with the presidency. I don't. That's just dick sucking to get power. Trump referred to Musk laying off thousands of people after buying the social media company X.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. And then they never find the people unless they...
Right, because the correct thing to do when people in your company go on strike is just to fire all of them. Like, no, that's not the correct thing to do. The correct thing to do when people go on strike is to try to listen to why they are on strike. People are on strike because they don't want to quit. They want to continue working for your company. They just feel like something that's happening in your company is not fair.
They kill again, and then they let him out again. She's a radical left lunatic, and if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore. And she'll go back to all of the things that she believes in. She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking, zero. She's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually, she looked very much like our great First Lady, Melania. She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
Jesus Christ. It feels so weird to hear him talk about just how sexually attracted he is to Kamala Harris. That's weird. So yeah, fracking fucks up groundwater. Right, but it's also necessary. So fracking is what allows the plastics industry to function, and a lot of our medical industry is completely reliant on fracking for the plastics that are required for keeping several thousand containers of medicine safe for you, me, and everyone else. Which is why it's important to not get rid of those industries. It is important to recognize that those industries need to be scaled back to what is necessary, and then we need to focus on other energy sources on top of that. Don't let oil and fracking be the be-all, end-all of everything. Let it cover the stuff that only it can cover, period. This whole interview situation is that Robbie says plant-based plastics are definitely a thing. Yes, but they are absolutely atrocious for the medical industry. They are horrible for medical applications in every way, shape, and form. The rate at which they break down is kind of insane. So, yes, they are a thing. I have plant-based plastics right here. This is polylactic acid. It is basically a cornstarch-based plastic. You would not use that for a medicine container for long-term storage. Not at all. Pernia says, but who can afford medicine these days? Separate issue that needs to be handled as well. That said, let me know what y'all think about this whole insane ordeal. My takeaway from it is, holy shit, this is one of the most inane and stupid people to have ever graced the platform of politics. Both him and Elon. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Share this video with people if you think that that's that important to you. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button, all that other fun stuff. And as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, just wanted to give a quick thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who help keep me afloat and help keep this channel going. YouTube and Twitch are wonderful platforms, but at the end of the day, stability is not one of their strong suits. If you want to support my channel, then obviously Patreon is one of the best ways of doing that. Link is in the description. But I do want to personally thank everybody who has contributed to the channel. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Autumn and Angel, Nixie Chan, Mark Anthony, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. And everyone else who supports my channel and lets me do what I do full-time. This is a dream job of mine that I never believed that I would be able to take full-time, and with your help, I've been able to do it. So thank you so very much for that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all are having a wonderful time. I will see you all in the next one, hopefully.